Welcome to the Entangled Show, a weekly conversation where we bridge the gap between high-level physics and everyday reality. I'm your co-host, Pete Codella, streaming from Utah's Salt Lake Valley.
And I am Sumit Parashar. I am from Bhilai and live in Lehigh. I live in two places at once, just like a quantum particle. I coined the term Quantonomy, which is what this show is all about. Thanks for joining us.
Sumit, how are you? Good to see you.
I am doing fantastic, Pete. Good to see you too. This is a special episode, so we took some time to prep for it.
It is our namesake, the Entangled Show, Entanglement.
I love it. We have been waiting for this episode for a long time, and we know that entanglement is one of the biggest pillars. I mean, all the pillars have to be same in a building, but this is the biggest pillar of quantonomy.
And something I'd like to do here as we start is just talk about quantonomy again, just to find that for our viewers or listeners, that it's the study and management of the principles, governance, and economic architecture of quantum systems. So quantum is maybe a big, new, unfamiliar field for some, but that at least helps you understand what we mean when we say quantonomy.
Well said. Well said. So for today's episode, Pete, I'm super excited. The way we are going to share with our audience what entanglement is, I have never seen that approach before. It actually came to me in a dream.
Really?
Yeah. Seriously, I was thinking about what could be the best way to show entanglement. We are not in a lab, so I can't show what an actual entanglement is, but how to share with our audience in just words what entanglement is. And I think the idea that came to me is good. It has been duly vetted by my family and now going to be vetted by you.
That's right.
But this is a new idea, and hopefully it will catch on, and hopefully it will be an effective way to explain entanglement.
And then maybe at the end, we can talk about other ways in our everyday lives that we see entangled things or situations or people.
Absolutely. I think it's all going there. Quantonomy or the study of quantum objects is the final frontier, like we talked about. In our opinions, if or when we figure out how this science works, we will have figured out how connections to this science versus human behavior and biology and all of that work too. So I'm super excited.
As we start, how about if we have you explain entanglement? And I'm going to give you a 2-minute timer. You ready?
All right, Pete, you gave me a tough job. I need to describe entanglement in 2 minutes. So here we go. In quantonomy, quantum physics, entanglement is when quantum particles stay linked. Linked could mean connected, correlated, and also they know each other. So this link occurs across long distances, maybe even regardless of distance. So that checking one particle instantly tells us what the state of the other particle is. So this is sort of a bookish definition, but let me go deep diving into what I mean. So imagine these are two particles at the quantum level. Entangle in by itself. So entanglement is the topic, and entangle is the verb that we are focusing on today. So let's say for a second we switch from all caps to on lower and say entangle. It's still the same word, but you have the word written in lowercase. For a second, let's drop the alphabets N to L in here and just keep E's on the equation. And now, as our viewers can see that now we have two E's which equate to two electrons maybe. But then the next slide, I am showing a magical connection between these two electrons. And now we call them entangled electrons. Basically, this E on the left knows the other E on the right. But By entanglement, this is what we mean is that you have two quantum particles. They are connected or linked through interface that looks like a magical interface to us. Going forward, I wanted to demonstrate how entanglement works across distance or maybe even regardless of distance. So we are seeing some galaxies here, but to be specific, what we are seeing is one electron in the Milky Way galaxy and one electron in the Andromeda galaxy. And if we have those two electrons entangled, we can see the effects of entanglement across these two galaxies.
By the way, you reached your 2 minutes just before you started talking about galaxies. And I wonder if in other languages, the E and the E are in the same spot. That's convenient for English, I think, but a cool visual.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm a native Hindi speaker, and English is my second language. But this is something else I thought about is that in a lot of ways, we complain about words not being appropriate with reference to quantum sciences or quantonomy. But in this particular case, entanglement, the word entangle is so very appropriate. And that was the idea that I got when I was thinking about how do we explain entangle. And I thought, if you drop everything in between, you have two E's on the side, and we can use that as leverage when explaining entanglement.
We see things that are entangled all the time, but maybe don't realize that looking at one end, there's another piece of it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. There are multiple parties, if you will, that have to be involved to demonstrate entanglement. Uh, Pete, you and I have been working on this series for a while. I believe you and I are entangled in a lot of
Mm.
ways. We think about episodes going forward. A lot of times when we get together, discuss what needs to be on a show, we realize that we already have had the same thoughts. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Another thought I had as I thought of this episode is we read in scripture that God and Jesus are one, and I believe they're one in purpose. And so if you see what Jesus does on earth, you would understand what God would do. And in that way, yes, it's a relationship, and yes, it's two individuals, but maybe their personality, their characteristics, their traits are kind of entangled, because if you observe one, you understand the other.
Well said, Pete. That is a deep, deep topic. And you're right, in my opinion, when you say that.
And maybe a perfect marriage would be that way too.
Yes. That should be one of the topics or results of entanglement. You're right. So there is a few things that we will talk about where you can look at human-based interactions and kind of correlate that to entanglement. But going back to the point of God, if you will, uh, there is something going on that we don't understand at this point of time. It may be that we are not supposed to understand things at that certain level. Our brains are not maybe big enough or complex enough to be able to understand this whole equation. But one of these days, or one of the topics that we'll pick up is God, consciousness, and even the origin of universe and how all of it kind of came from this one spot. And when that happens, we will realize that uh, everybody was kind of born entangled. The planets, the stars, the human beings are ourselves. We all come from the same source, and there is one governing body that takes care of all of us. One more thing we'll talk about is fine tuning. I think that's a topic that will come up today. But what you were referring to is sort of a aspect of the broader topic of fine tuning. uh, it is a mystery to us how the environment on Earth and the location with reference to the sun, how all of that is pointing to a fact that there is perfection behind the scenes. Is that if there was like one iota of difference in the degrees at which the Earth tilts or the distance from sun, life wouldn't have been possible. So we definitely do have a discussion coming up on fine tuning.
That's interesting. I do like to think of God or the creator as the perfect organizer, that matter existed. And I'm listening to a fascinating podcast series on whether, God may have used evolution in the creation. And maybe, like, who are we to say how it's done? It doesn't bother me one way or the other. But the piece that is important to me is that, um, as you said, putting things together in an organized way, and that entangled kind of connection and just the way things work, to me, speaks of a higher power. I don't believe that could occur, and that our experience would be happening without someone organizing it for us.
Beautiful. I think as scientists and physicists, they make more progress as quantum computers come about, and we are able to take a large amount of data set and process it. What you're talking about, the basic principles or the building blocks of how this universe came about will be shown to us.
And those building blocks could be billions and billions of years old, right? It's interesting.
So fascinating.
Okay, do we want to show some more slides?
So, with that 2-minute definition of what is entanglement, let's get to the next stage of the discussion, which is let me start out with this. This is kind of introduction back to where we want to be in terms of the discussion. Is that on this visual we have a denim-based cloth that is the physical world. As you go deeper, you have molecular level, and then as you go deeper you have an atomic level, and as you go deeper you have a quantum level. So we brought in this slide just to make sure that everybody has good context on which level we are talking about.
For me, whenever I think of a quantum level, I feel like a superhero movie is playing, and I'm going deeper and deeper. What is it? Ant-Man, that shrinks down, and eventually they're in this molecular space and this little person. So that visual is what comes to my mind, whether it's correct or not.
It is correct. I'll let you take this one, Pete, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. That entangled concept, you've got these two different emergent properties. And we know that Einstein said it was spooky action at a distance. And again, as Sumit explained earlier, that when you reveal one, you know what the other entangled element is. So that connection, I think, is why Einstein made that comment, that separated but connected.
Beautiful. This is where we start to describe how entanglement works and draw parallels in our day-to-day world. Is imagine classical dancers who have been training for all their life, and say, for example, for the sake of simplicity, if you have two classical dancers, they know each other, they have worked with each other, and they instinctively respond to each other's uh, gestures. Same thing is that you can consider those two classical dancers as entangled dancers, because essentially they are connected in ways that even we don't understand at this point in time, and then they create perfect synchronous moments.
And Summit, I think the world just witnessed an example of this, perhaps in the Olympics in figure skating, right? As you watch a couple skate on the ice, they're definitely entangled in presenting that program that they've prepared.
Beautiful. I think that's the crux of the matter here. This one is slightly technical, so we'll not be going and talking about these concepts at a physicist level. So, in terms of lingua franca, if somebody wants to understand, hey, you have these two entangled particles, but how do you actually create entanglement? So, this slide essentially talks about the fact that you can start out with a crystal, you have to have a specific kind of laser, and when you pretty much shine the laser within that crystal, It creates two particles. Particles could be photons, but in this case, it looks like it's photons. But you are able to create entangled photons by using such a process of starting out with a laser.
Is the crystal that the laser goes through, does it have to be a specific shape?
No. I think what this diagram is talking about is that you can take a crystal and within the crystal, you have angles and planes and lattices, if I'm using the right word. But crystal basically reflects laser within itself, and then you can design the crystal in a way where it actually shows or throws out a few particles. But yeah, to answer your question, crystal can be made of any material, uh, but this is just an example.
My father has a PhD in chemistry and spent about 30 years working for General Electric in their corporate R&D center in upstate New York, and his job was analytical spectroscopy. And I've been in his lab before. He's retired now, but definitely had a lot of lasers and things that looked a lot like diagrams that looked a lot like this.
Beautiful. One of these days, I would love to have a discussion with him on this topic or others. So, Pete, this one is yours.
Separation across the cosmos. It's interesting that as you consider how on Earth something may be spinning one way, that entangled means that elsewhere in the cosmos, the connected piece is entangled and similar. Great distances, galaxies. I mean, Summit, to me, this is, I've mentioned it before, but Star Trek, and traveling across the galaxy and warp speed and all those things. I feel like understanding quantum will perhaps get our technology to a place where science fiction becomes our reality.
Love that. In one of the episodes, we talked about intergalactic travel and study of quantum objects will reveal things to us where we can leverage those principles, and then that would result in travel. But the interesting thing is that you have to look inwards to be able to go outwards, right? So that's a beautiful concept. One other thing I want to mention here, Pete, is that uh, you know, in a small system like ours right now, so we are on Earth. We are thinking of this as a system. Uh, we know what down feels like here, and we also know what up feels like here. But if you take yourselves to a different galaxy, the up and the down in a different galaxy could look so very different, right? You can have different sources of gravity, different orientations, and so on. But tough topic. All right. So next one, I think Pete is really passionate about this. So can you talk to us about this slide?
Absolutely. This is Einstein and his spooky action at a distance, and also the concept of the dancers, how they're intertwined, but hidden from our view. So the concept here in this slide, if you discover a left-handed glove, then there's a corresponding right-handed glove elsewhere that's entangled, that's connected to that. And I think Einstein didn't quite know what to do with it, which is why he called it spooky. Like, couldn't really explain it.
Absolutely. One other thing that this slide mentions is Einstein could not, like we said, he could not believe that it would be possible for us to have two particles that go across galaxies. And then if you look at a state of one, you can find the state of the other. So he thought this was impossible. So he thought that there are some hidden variables that are in play that we don't know about, that actually cause that correlation or that connection to happen. It's a topic for another day, but we did want to bring this up, saying, hey, uh, Einstein, when he came back after the Copenhagen Convention, And when he did not agree with the Copenhagen interpretation, he proposed a theory of hidden variables. That's a topic for another day, but a good word for all of us to remember when we talk about Einstein's spooky objection.
And do you want to talk about the action at a distance connection?
Yes, thank you. So we did talk about it, but I think all our viewers and listeners should see that we have found another correlation between Newton and Albert Einstein. I don't know if anybody, or maybe people may have seen this before, but I haven't found this correlation anywhere that I researched. Is that when Newton discovered gravity, he called that as action at a distance. So let me repeat, action at a distance was labeled essentially as gravity by Newton. Now, a few hundred years later, Einstein comes along and he uses those exact same words, action at a distance, but he uses the label spooky to define a phenomena that he was seeing. Um, and my guess is that there is some correlation here. Gravity does come into play, and Pete, we talked about the emergent properties, where there are properties that we see that are not inherent in an atom or a molecule, but a few molecules and atoms, when they come together, they create emergent properties. So let me say this too, is that we believe that entanglement creates gravity, and gravity is an emergent property of entanglement. So go figure. There's like action at a distance, it's spooky, it's gravity, and it's entanglement. So that's all a word soup that we have come up with. But yeah, I do believe that entanglement is the core cause of gravity. Okay, so moving on to this step is one of the objections that Einstein had to entanglement is that he said nothing, he said, and we all agree, and it's been proven, is that you cannot exceed the speed of light doing anything. Even if information is transferred from one point A to point B, the speed of transfer of information cannot exceed the speed of light. That was his core objection to this concept of entanglement. But then eventually, after years and years of experimentation, it was proven that entanglement is true. But this gentleman from Caltech, he came up with this beautiful statement that says there can be correlation without communication. So, entanglement does not mean that these two particles are communicating with each other back and forth. That is not how entanglement works. Entanglement, more like a lingua franca or language that you and I understand, a particle knows the other particle. It is correlated, it is linked in a way that we at this point in time not don't completely understand. But there is not an actual transfer of information or anything between these two particles. So, where the speed of light is still the speed limit of the universe, but entanglement does not break and that rule. But entanglement occurs due to a different principle that at this point in time we don't completely understand. So, Pete, this is your favorite topic.
The quantum flock. It's interesting, as we talked earlier, Summit, you were talking about birds and utilizing pieces of the magnetic field in Earth to get where they need to be, to remember how to go where they need to go. And millions of particles together function like flocks of birds that we see. It is always fascinating to me to watch a big group of birds as they move around. It's almost like there's a sense of connection among them. And yeah, as you think of migration, I think that's a bit of the concept we're trying to convey here.
Beautiful. That sense of connection that you're talking about, that, in my opinion, translates to the topic of the day, which is entanglement.
Right.
When
Yeah.
we see these millions of birds kind of fly together as one unit or as one system, if you will, they don't crash into each other, they don't bump into each other. Every element of that flock or the bird of the flock knows what the bird next to it is doing, where all of them are heading. So watching flocks of birds is a magical thing. And I think in the future, at some point in time, it will be proven that they use entanglement. I mean, my study on this is that if somebody follows three principles, you can create a flock. But net, I think in the future, it will be proven that birds somehow entangle with each other and then fly in these flocks in the right direction.
This is making me think of an experience I had riding in a Tesla in a Cyber Beast truck, actually, that was on self-driving mode, and it did remarkably well, driving for about 40 minutes, here along the Wasatch Front, down to the community level. And just the thought occurred to me that, like, if everyone was in a vehicle like that, we would probably eliminate a lot of the accidents or incidents that we have on the roads, because they would be connected in some way and all kind of expect the actions from the other. And your comment about the birds, like, it's not how we humans drive, right? It's always, there are lots of unexpected things when you are driving and frustrating things when you are driving. But if every vehicle was connected in some way, I think the experience would be quite a bit different.
Absolutely. I think we are going in that direction. Now, I'll take one more second, share a thought, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Um, so imagine that we are able to create entanglement between physical objects. Uh, if that happens, you can have these flocks of vehicles driving on road, never colliding with each other. So collisions between vehicles will become a thing of past. However, if we are able to entangle, say, a flight squadron of 40 F-16s, if you will, and if they're all flying in tandem and all entangled with each other, imagine the kind of efficiency that we can achieve.
Efficiency and lethality, which maybe is not a great thing.
Yep, but that's war. So it's a application of entanglement. But yeah, if somebody in DoD is interested in talking to us about it, but yeah, we okay. So again, this is kind of a repetition of a concept we talked about before. Is that you have these two beautiful dancers. They are entangled with each other, and this is, I think, the easiest way for us to express that entanglement can be beautiful.
And something the visual does, I think, is helps us see kind of the reverse image of things. Like if you think of looking at a mirror, I think that's good imagery for being entangled and seeing opposites, and how when one moves, the other moves the same.
Yep, that makes sense. So this slide is sort of a counter argument against the hidden variables issue, the hidden variables concept that Einstein put together. Uh, One word I'm thinking of is they as in Einstein with two of his other friends, they created a white paper that counters the Copenhagen interpretation, and they call it the EPR paradox, and that's where they came up with the um, hidden variable concept. But in here, we are trying to say that they may have pre-planned the coordination, they may have practiced a whole lot, but when we actually get down to execution or the actual show, all of that disappears, and the instinctive partnership or relationship between the dancers takes over. So that brings us to the last slide of the day. Um, we think that a true verb that can be used to draw panels with entanglement in the quantum world is particle A knows particle B. I think at a future date they may come to a realization saying, hey, we were using the word linked, we were using the word correlation, we were using the word connected. All of that is good, but if you say a particle A is entangled particle of particle B and they know each other, I think that would be a very good definition going forward. So with that said, Pete, in the next few more minutes, we'll talk about how entanglement correlates to our day-to-day experiences. All of this sounds spooky. Like if I tell you is that, hey, if I build something here, and if I send our partner of that to Andromeda Galaxy, we can still see the states of both by looking at the state of one. It does sound spooky, but in our day-to-day experiences, we actually experience these things a whole lot. Let's talk about a few things that you think that we are experiencing in our day-to-day reality that correlates to entanglement.
And again, we say spooky. Well, Einstein did. I just think it means unexpected, and unexplained. We don't quite understand it yet. Maybe not really super spooky. I brought up this example, I think, before marriage, love. I think individuals become somewhat entangled together, and have similar thoughts and develop similar mannerisms and respond to situations in similar ways, because of the love that they share, the shared experience, the connection that they have. So that was one that I thought of.
That's beautiful. I love that example, Pete. Love and marriage, we essentially have two entangled beings. That kind of leads me to a thought is that, so I've been married, happily married, 35 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So a lot of times we can be on different parts of the planet. So I could be in India, my wife could be here, but a lot of times I could sense that she's thinking about X, Y, and Z, and so I think telepathy as a concept, it's real. I've experienced it. We've all seen it. Telepathy as a concept is real. It really does happen. However, it goes into that fringe or the paranormal definition or the paranormal bracket, so we don't take it seriously. But in my opinion, too, telepathy somewhere down the line and a few years later will come up as an example of real world implementation of entanglement.
And another phrase that we're all familiar with is a mother's intuition, right? That kind of intuition and kind of knowing before anything is said, I think also is an example of entanglement. We see it in families often, and perhaps as an extension of telepathy or love, but certainly intuition. You feel like you need to call someone, you feel like someone's struggling. I mean, more often than not, especially if you know the person well, you're right.
Beautiful. As the umbilical cord is cut, the physical connection between a mom and the baby is cut. But uh, if an intuitive understanding between the mom and the kid did not exist, then I don't think we would be existing as a human race. It
Hmm.
is it is a non-tangible, but the mom has instinctive, like I said, instinctive understanding of what the kid might need. So thank you.
And that's interesting. Maybe that connection has more to do with I mean, yeah, you mentioned the physical connection, right? And the proximity, but maybe that connection has a lot more to do with the choice to love and support and help another individual.
I agree with that. As a mom and a kid, that is one way of looking at entanglement and physical implementation or manifestation of entanglement. But the same concept extends to a lot of aspects too. So, if you are talking to a philanthrope, they instinctively understand what needs are present in somebody, and so they find ways to get that need fulfilled. So it's deep. There's something deeper going on there that we understand right now. Along the same lines of mom and a kid. Uh, Based on our understanding of entanglement, it does seem like all the cells in a human body are entangled to each other. So we
Hmm.
talked about, to keep it simple, we looked at one particle and we looked at another particle and we said, hey, these are entangled. So, but that does not mean in entanglement, there's only a one-to-one relationship. There could be a many-to-many relationship too for entanglement. So along those lines, cells in a human body, they seem like they are following all the rules of entanglement because the body works as a whole. And if I get a cut in my in my hand somewhere, the rest of the body quickly sends back information and also chemicals that will be needed to actually fix that wound. So uh, there's not like a sequential communication going on based on what we can see. I mean, this is a huge topic, but two things here is that we think that all human cells are entangled with all other human cells in this one body system, and if that is proven one day, I think medicine is going to have a significant impact, because as of right now we are getting treated based on symptoms, but the holistic body based treatment, there are some fringe sciences and some doctors who follow those principles, but I think when it is proven that all the human cells are entangled with all others, we will have a new branch of medicine that looks at the body as a whole and not just treats specific symptoms on specific parts of the body.
Tell me what you think of this concept of entanglement. We talk about our senses, right? Things we can explain. There's also things we can feel. Um, I think that you can usually tell, even without use of your vision, when someone's staring at you. Like you can sense that you're
Right.
being observed, and it
Mhm.
makes you uncomfortable, and you look around like, um, is is that an example?
Oh yeah. That so I think that you're touching on a deep point. One example is that if you are in a sort of a public place, and if you're taking a nap, say over a flight or when you're traveling, uh, even while we are asleep, we sometimes get abruptly woken up by just a feeling that somebody was staring at us.
Hmm.
How that works, we don't know. But yes, I think that's got something to do with entanglement. One other thing I would throw out there in terms of entanglement is, recently, as in a few years back, we have started seeing more examples of past lives. So I was born a Hindu, and we believe in reincarnation. I have different beliefs now. I'm somewhere in the middle, but in Hinduism, reincarnation is a concept that is generally accepted. So, people remembering their past lives is a mystery right now, and I think somehow we could connect entanglement to it, where in the future, if it is determined that memories and thoughts, they are not local, but they are kept outside of the bodies. In that case, if somebody is reincarnated and they get a new body, they could still tap into the intelligence and the memories they had from the last time. That's a fringe topic, but I believe that past life memories, when people share their experiences or their memories, I think it's got something to do with entanglement.
And I'll share just part of my spiritual belief that we existed before we came to this earth. And I think our bodies are a barrier and a veil over our memories of what happened to us before. But I believe that the characteristics that we had before we were born um, are with us here, and we continue to develop and progress, and that after this mortal existence, those characteristics um, proceed with us as we evolve, as we grow and develop.
I love that, Pete. There's one thought that we may not have discussed before, but if you think of it this way, is that we as humans live on the planet on an average of 90 to 100 years. Uh, all of us go through experiences. All of us learn. All of us have memories. And then when death occurs, the body fails, but then the information or the non-tangibles cannot disappear one fine morning. Those intangibles or those thoughts or those memories, they no need to go somewhere. Even based on the law of conservation of energy, information remains in the universe. The energy remains the same in the universe. But as a human body dies, the physical part of it is something that we can observe and see, and that deteriorates the time.
Dust to dust, right?
Yeah, but the thoughts and the memories and the experiences, in my opinion, it cannot be that all of those intangibles disappear just like that.
I agree. Wouldn't it be interesting if we were at that science fiction point where there could be a download and all that experience in our minds goes on this disk and is preserved and could be used to communicate with future generations who may not have even known you, just gets preserved. This is making me think of another thing I've heard, and I don't know if this is scientifically proven, that we use a really small percentage of our brains. And I just wonder if some of the functionality, everything that's there exists to store some of these things from maybe before and carry with us in the future. I don't know. Interesting.
Yep. I think as science develops and as we learn more about these three principles of quantum or quantonomy, uh, there will be a point of time where there will be convergence. And what we think right now as topics that are friends or as or paranormal, and we'll start getting some explanations for those.
Well, shall we summarize for our listeners? Quantonomy, superposition, probability, entanglement. We've covered those, and I think now our goal is that we use this platform to talk about quantonomy in the wild, in real life. Like, how's it being used? Um, Anything you want to add to that as a closing thought?
Absolutely. So those are the pillars that you mentioned. Those are fundamental building blocks of the reality. They are building blocks at a level where we cannot physically see them, but they remain the fundamentals of quantonomy and building the real world behind the scenes. So, like I said, we've covered the three main concepts or the pillars of quantonomy. Going forward, we'll start deep diving into the real world. So, we may talk about quantum computing at some point, and then you mentioned quantum economy. So we've been keeping track of some companies who have made some good progress along those lines, and they are ready to offer their hardware to public. So we will be talking about the economy, the real world implications of these concepts, and definitely quantum computing in a very near future.
And I think it'll be fascinating to talk philosophy and religion, like some of the spiritual aspects of what we've discussed as well.
Yes, Pete, that is, you and I have talked about this, and that those are my favorite topics too. So one good thing is that this is not a scientific journal or this is not a scientific article. So we are allowed to let our imaginations go wide and start connecting the dots where none exists right now. And all the topics that you talked about are classified in a way where sort of they are nebulous when it comes to the scientific community. But we are not bound by those, so we can explore those topics and plan on connecting those dots even as of right now.
All right. Well, till next time, I guess we will stay entangled.
Sounds good, Pete. Thank you so much for the discussion. We loved it. And then one other thing is that at this point in time, we will also request our viewers and audience to start sharing some feedback. We this is a milestone episode. We said that we will start out and then talk about these three pillars. But then from here on, there is a good probability, and I don't mean that lightly. It's a
Nice.
good be that we will not, we will not restrict ourselves to specific topics. But if someone has topics that they want us to discuss, we would love to hear from them.
Yeah, just reach out, info@entangled.show.
Sounds good. Pete, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sumit. We'll see you.
Okay, bye.
The Entangled Show podcast is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Please like and subscribe to the pod. Connect with us at entangled.show or send an email to info@entangled.show. I'm Pete Codella. Thanks for listening.
I am Sumit Parashar. Signing off for now. Thanks again for joining us here at the Entangled Show. We'll see you next time.